Jamen, velkommen til den sidste session her i Studie 3, and I'll switch into English because our guest is an English-speaking person. It's a great pleasure that for me that this is actually the last session, because I think it's wonderful to finish this conference off with something that, in my opinion, is one of the most important things about the internet that we don't discuss very much at these kinds of conferences. It's about censorship, it's about freedom of expression. And Julian Assange, who is the spokesperson and on the advisory board of WikiLeaks, and he'll explain to you what WikiLeaks is, I'm sure, is one of the, one of the persons who are fighting most for freedom of speech and against censorship on the internet. He has won the Amnesty International Media Award in 2009 this year, and also the Economist Freedom of Expression Award in 2008. And it'll be like this. Julian will talk for like 30 minutes, and we will have 15 minutes for questions. So please welcome Julian Assange.
Thank you, Henrik, for those very kind remarks. Okay, so we only have half an hour, is that right? So half an hour and maybe plus. It's the last session, right? We can go to the rest of the night. Okay, and maybe some questions. So, you know, sometimes I wonder if you've done anything original, whether you can say anything meaningful about it at all. And this is often my dilemma when I begin a talk, is where do I start? Because 2.5 years ago, before I became involved in this full-time, my perception of the world and how it operated in the East and in the West, in the developing world, was very different to what it is now. So I have to cast my mind back to how I perceived things back then, to understand a little bit about how I can tell you what I've experienced and what we've learnt over the past 2.5 years. So in the beginning, I and several of my colleagues who are journalists and human rights activists understood that major political reforms that wouldn't have happened otherwise came from unauthorized disclosures. And that those were the real drivers of political reform, not just in Western countries, but all across the world. And if we could develop a system whereby we could maximize the number of those disclosures and get them out to the press and to everyone else, we could increase the amount of just reform going on in the world. But that's actually not such an easy thing to do. It seemed like it would be relatively easy. We knew, I've been an investigative journalist for a long time, that actually getting documents is not so hard. The problem is publishing them and keeping them up in the face of attacks, both economic and legal. So we decided to come up with a system that would help us do this, to pull in material from all over the world, from people in China who were facing oppression to journalists who couldn't get things past their editors. We decided to take the hardest publishing case and become specialists in publishing the unpublishable. And to a large degree, we have succeeded in doing that and staying up and staying alive. But we're still only maybe 1/20th of the way there in terms of the volume of material that we would like to get out to the public. So that's our abstract beginnings, but I'd like to give you some concrete examples so you can get a feeling for what's been going on. This, what you see here, is our website. So our organization is called the Sunshine Press, and we have people, a network of people all over the world. I guess that our primary strengths in the United States, Australia, and Germany, and Kenya. But we do have people in Cambodia, South Africa, UK. And this is our website where we try to place our releases that have come from our sources and also from journalists that have been censored. So you'll see immediately that we appeal to people to bring in material, and on this right-hand column we will have a latest leaks. This is the stuff that we've received from the world, and catalyzed reportage. Remember I said before that the primary driver of reforms that wouldn't have otherwise happened is unauthorized disclosures. So there can be no, in fact, there can be no useful reportage unless a journalist has a fresh source. So the great talking to itself that you see in the blogosphere, and that great criticism of the blogosphere, is a legitimate criticism, and that it doesn't have something to drive it. Just like oil drives the economy, political reforms are driven by fresh information, and journalists who have something useful to say are also driven by fresh information. So the catalyzed reportage is on the left-hand side, and but in fact there is so much catalyzed reportage that we have no ability to incorporate we have an ability to incorporate less than 1/50th of the material that generates reportage around the world. So you can see here, we also have links to Google News, blogs, and Twitter. So this is a way of understanding how our material is being taken up by the media, both the 4.0 estate and the fourth estate. And over here is the material that drives it. So I will go through some of these examples. If you look today in Google News, this is the references to WikiLeaks. We get about 50% of articles that are based upon our material do reference us, which is nice. So this is Google News just from a few minutes ago. And you can see what's been going on, and actually it's quite lovely. Today I see that we have a new language being used, Tuvalu, and this is this is a regional language in Pakistan where they find some of that material has been quite interesting to them. And the latest thing you will see in Norwegian. And I understand that this was also the front cover of today's Berlingske. This article on our release of 573,000 intercepted pager messages from September 11, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that later, is on that front page. And this is what you should do if you're a journalist, by the way, and you're wanting to use our material and see whether someone else is using it and whether in what way has it been reported or has it been reported yet. And these are Twitter messages that have been just issued on some of that material. Some of this September 11 intercepted pager messages, and also, what else is interesting to people? David Irving, the convicted Holocaust denier. We released his private emails, I think, a couple of days ago, and some people are quite interested in that. Okay. All right. This is what sources see if they want to submit us material, or what journalists see if they want to submit us material. Now, this probably was what the person in the media who submitted us the Jaeger